They were warned, Raliv, Galiv, ya Chaliv, meaning convert, leave, or die. These words echoed from mosque loudspeakers across Kashmir on the night of January 19, 1990. Not from one mosque, but many. Not whispered, but blasted on loudspeakers. The message wasn't political. It wasn't a warning. It was a threat. And it was the final nail in the coffin for the Kashmiri Pandits, Hindus who had lived in the Kashmir Valley for over 5,000 years. That night marked the beginning of one of the most brutal and ignored genocides in modern Indian history. And the country they belonged to stayed silent. Kashmiri Pandits are not outsiders. They are the original inhabitants of the Kashmir Valley, a community of scholars, teachers, administrators, and spiritual leaders. Their contribution to Kashmiri culture, language, and identity is immeasurable. They lived alongside their Muslim neighbors in relative peace for generations. But by the 1980s, they were a shrinking minority, just 3% of the population in the valley, and soon they would be marked, not for their deeds, but for their religion. The 1980s saw the rise of Islamic extremism fueled directly by Pakistan. After losing wars on the battlefield, Pakistan launched a new war, proxy jihad. Under the leadership of Zia-ul-Haq, Pakistan's intelligence agency ISI trained and armed Islamic terror outfits like the JKLF, Hizbul Mujahideen, and Lashkar-e-Taiba. Their goal was clear: Islamize Kashmir, eliminate Indian presence, and target anyone who stood in the way. For these militants, Kashmiri Pandits were the first target: unarmed, isolated, educated Hindus, soft victims for a dark agenda. And then came the night that shattered everything. January 19th, 1990. From dusk till dawn, loudspeakers screamed hate: convert, leave, or die. Streets echoed with slogans like Kashmir banega Pakistan, Panditon ke bina. Homes of Pandits were marked with chalk, symbols of death. In many places, the names of young women were announced from mosques, followed by open threats of rape and abduction. Prominent leaders like Tikka Lal Taploo were assassinated in cold blood. The valley turned into a war zone, and the only crime of Pandits was being Hindu. The stories that followed are not just chilling, they are inhuman. Women were dragged from their homes, gang raped in front of their families, mutilated, and killed. Girija Tickoo, a school teacher, was kidnapped, gang raped by 5 men, and then cut alive with a mechanical saw. Another woman was chopped into 2 pieces while she was still breathing. Young girls were taken as sex slaves. Children were shot in the head, and even pregnant women were not spared. Men were beheaded. Entire families were burned alive, and there was no army, no police, no government to stop it. What followed was a mass exodus. Over 3.5 to 5 lakh Kashmiri Pandits fled the valley in a matter of days. They didn't leave, they were forced out under threat of death. With only a few belongings, they left behind ancestral homes, temples, farms, and memories. They thought they'd return in a week. It's been over 30 years. Those who escaped became refugees in their own country. Camps were set up in Jammu and Delhi. Overcrowded tents with no electricity, no sanitation, no dignity. Hundreds died of heat stroke, snake bites, starvation. Children never saw schools. Families broke apart. And the nation moved on. For decades, their story was buried. No justice, no compensation, no national outrage. Not one major terrorist was convicted for the genocide. Mainstream media chose silence. Bollywood made hundreds of films about every community, but ignored the Pandits until recently. Activists and intellectuals who scream for global minorities never raised a voice for Pandits. They were branded as migrants, not victims. A genocide was reduced to a migration in government records, and the hypocrisy became unbearable. After Article 370 was abrogated in 2019, many believed Pandits would finally return home. But the reality is bitter. The land is gone. Homes are either destroyed or occupied. The trust is broken. Even today, Pandits who try to return are targeted. some even killed again. Can you really return to a land where your neighbors once watched you burn? Where no one stood up when your daughter was taken? The valley they loved has changed. And for many, it's too late to go back. Let's be clear, this was not a migration. This was an ethnic cleansing. This was genocide, fair, by every legal and moral definition. But the world never called it that. Because the victims were Hindus in India. Their pain wasn't fashionable, their trauma wasn't profitable. It's time to break the silence. It's time to speak the truth, no matter how brutal. Because justice delayed is injustice deepened. For the women who were torn apart, for the children who were shot, for the fathers who hung themselves in refugee camps, and for the mothers who still sleep with their daughter's last photograph under their pillow, this video is for them. Don't let this truth die in silence. Share it. Remember it. Speak it. Because the world forgot them, but you don't have to.